Hey Unbound ones, it's Nicola here, and I wanted to come on and talk to you today about something that has been kind of percolating for me recently, and it's in response to, my work is all about being unbound. I'm a student of unbound living. That's what I work with my clients about, that's what I write about. And being unbound is all about being your fullest, freest, most magnificent self. And I've been thinking about, or reflecting on, why so many of us struggle to do that. I'm literally surrounded by the most amazing women, my clients and the women in my Unbound community, women that I connect with in my network, online and offline. And so many are struggling with doubts and fears and have amazing, incredible ideas, like creative ideas, transformational ideas that are going to make a real difference to this planet that we live on and everyone who lives on it, or have the potential to do that. But I see so many women holding back, and I experience that myself. And why is this? So in my book Unbound, I talk about something called the half-life, where so many women in particular are leading this life of kind of chronic dissatisfaction, which could be kind of unconscious, not necessarily conscious dissatisfaction, but living a life where they are censoring themselves and editing themselves and modifying themselves, like I said, often unconsciously. So they lose any sense of what they really want in their lives. And I've certainly experienced that, for a big part of my life. I was living that way. But actually what I've come to realize is, it's not even a half-life. Actually, it can almost be like a 1% life that we're living at 1% of our full potential, of our full expression. And the reason that I'm coming to see that is because of the different roles that we take on throughout our lives, the different kind of masks that we choose to wear. And often again, this is unconscious. A lot of what I'm talking about here is not happening consciously, it's happening unconsciously. So let me explain this in a bit more detail, as best as I can. That's why I've come outside to record this, because it just helps me to tune into it and think a bit more clearly. So a big part of my work relates to what I call the inner good girl, the part of us that wants to fit in, please others, get it right. And most of us as women were brought up to be kind of the archetypal good girl. We receive these messages consciously and unconsciously about who and how we should be in the world, and a lot of that is about pleasing others, being acceptable, being approved of, all of those kind of things. So that is a role that we take on from a very early age. Sorry, it's a squirrel just jumped down the tree behind me. So that is one of the roles that we play, but it's not the only one. Each of us takes on countless different roles throughout our lives. So we have the good girl there, but then there's also like the good daughter. Okay, so that's another role that we play in our lives, and what it means to us to be a good daughter. Maybe if you're in a relationship, is you're trying to be a good partner. So I'm drawing these circles, each one represents a different role, and they intersect. If you imagine like a Venn diagram, but apparently I was speaking to Mr. H about this last night, and a Venn diagram can't have more than 3 circles, but each of us plays much more than 3 roles. So this Venn diagram has a lot of different kind of circles on it. So if you're a mother, then you're trying to be a good mother as well, so that's another role that you play. If you work for a company, you're trying to be a good employee, so that's another role that you play. So you can see that very soon this kind of visual representation of all the roles we play, it starts to get really messy and cluttered. And all of these roles, at some point they intersect, but it's a really tiny place that they actually intersect in the middle, as well as all of these roles that we play. And, you know, maybe you want to be seen as a successful woman, so then another kind of circle goes on there. Maybe you want to be seen as the person, or you are seen. Like, sometimes these choices, they're not conscious. Like I said, you haven't consciously said, right, I'm choosing to be seen as maybe the one in my family or friendship group that everyone comes to for support. But you've taken on that role, so it's another circle that goes on this diagram. Maybe you're the one who kind of always figures it out. You always come up with the solutions. Maybe in your business, you know, you've set yourself up in this role where you feel you always have to have the answers for your clients. I'm sure not that you would ever kind of call yourself a guru, but that's how you've set yourself up, or that's how you feel you should be in your business. So that's another circle that goes on the diagram. And you can see that very quickly we end up with this really tiny place in the middle. All of these circles intersect, but only in this really tiny place. So that's where we kind of end up backing ourselves into a corner, because we've taken on all of these roles, or feel that we should be playing all of these different roles in our lives. And we end up operating in this really tiny kind of intersection of who we feel we should be, rather than bringing our fullest self at all times. Okay, so it's really, really restrictive, because we're trying to fit into all of these roles, and it's impossible. It is impossible unless we operate in this really restricted way. And even when we do, there are going to be times when we slip. You know, maybe you slip out of one of those roles. Maybe you find yourself shouting at your kids one day, or having a big argument with your partner, or you mess something up in your business. And because you're slipping outside of those roles, or your mask is dropping in some way, you end up feeling this shame that you haven't been able to meet others' expectations. You haven't been able to meet your own expectations. So this is why I say that many of us are actually living this 1% life. And as well as feeling really restrictive and limiting, it also restricts and limits the kind of what we're able to create in our lives. Because if you think that everything you're creating in life is coming from this 1% place, okay, so, you know, your relationships, the relationships that you're creating, maybe if you're a writer like me, what you're writing is coming from that 1% place, where you're unconsciously trying to fulfill all these different roles. It's really, really limiting. Maybe in your business, what you're creating in your business is only coming from this 1%, this tiny proportion of who you truly are and who you truly can be. Your income is only coming from this. It's only 1% of your fullest potential. You know, when we think about it like that, it really is quite scary. Because what I see is so many women working so freaking hard they have this sense, and maybe this is the case for you, that they're here for more, they're here to do more, they really want to be creating more impact. But we've all backed ourselves into this corner where we're living from this 1% place. Now, the unbound self, she operates beyond all of these roles that we've taken on. She operates on the outside. She is limitless. She is boundless. She is, she has limitless potential, and operates from this place of limitless possibility. And I'm not saying that, we should all be jumping immediately into our unbound self all the time, because actually it would feel like too much of a jump to go from 1% to completely unbound. The work that I do is about finding ways for us to inhabit our beings as our unbound selves as much as possible, or certainly more than we have been. So if you think, even if we expand that to kind of 10% from that 1%, it's going to have a huge impact on your life and your business if you have one. And there are ways that we can start to inhabit the unbound self. You know, there are practices that we can undertake. We can make sure that we're in situations where we're more connected with our unbound self. You know, for me, coming out into nature is something that I do to help me connect with my unbound self. The people that we spend time with, and also incorporating the principles of living unbound, which I talk about in the book. You know, all of those things help us to access a greater range of ourselves. But I think the first step is to acknowledge, you know, to think about these roles that we've taken on, and these rules that we're living by, either consciously or unconsciously, because awareness is the first step to change, and then we can start to move beyond them. So I am going to be sharing more about this and the specific ways that we can move beyond the 1% life. But I'm really interested in this concept. So if this is resonating with you, and if you feel kind of deep down that you know that you have been living at a really tiny percentage of your full potential, because I think most of us are, to be honest, and you want to expand that consciously over the next 3 months and to experiment with that. I'm not saying, like I said, that you're going to kind of start living fully as your unbound self the entire time, but what I'm looking for is 3 women to experiment with this over the next 3 months, to work with me closely, one-to-one, to uncover and identify the roles that you've been playing that have been keeping you in this 1% life, and how they've been doing it. Also to uncover and identify the kind of unspoken or spoken rules that you've been living by, which have been keeping you limited, and to really start bringing in and playing with, and like really consistently looking at ways that you can be more unbound in all aspects of your life. Like I said, I'm kind of framing this as an experiment, because, you know, I will be helping you to uncover what's been keeping you in the 1% place, and also giving you ways that you can expand into a more fuller expression of your potential. And we will be kind of checking out to see what the results are of that in all areas of your life and your business if you have one. I imagine that this is going to be most kind of attractive and compelling to women who do have their own businesses, who've made that bold and beautiful decision, and want to start expressing themselves and their potential more fully in their businesses, and, you know, seeing the results of that manifest as well. So if you're interested in being one of these 3 women, there's a link to book an exploratory conversation with me, which is complimentary. There's completely no obligation. I just want to kind of have a chat with anyone who's interested, so we can explore whether this is a good next step for you, if this is a good fit for you. So schedule a call, we'll have a chat, and yeah, we'll see where this takes us. Okay, Unbound ones, I will speak to you again soon. In the meantime, here's to being your fullest, freest, most magnificent self. Bye.